The iconic opening sentence of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is as important today as it was when it was adopted 75 years ago. The Universal Declaration is a roadmap helping to end wars, heal divisions, and promote lives of peace and dignity for all. But the world is losing its way. Conflicts are raging. Poverty and hunger are increasing. Inequalities are deepening. The climate crisis is a human rights crisis that is hitting the most vulnerable hardest. Authoritarianism is on the rise. Civic space is shrinking, and the media is under attack from all sides. Gender equality remains a distant dream, and women's reproductive rights are being rolled back. Today, it is more important than ever to promote and respect all human rights, social, cultural, economic, civil and political, which protect us all. The Universal Declaration shows the way to common values and approaches that can help resolve tensions and create the security and stability our world craves. As we work to update the global frameworks and make them more effective in the 21st century, human rights must have a unique and central role. I call on Member States to use this 75th anniversary and this Summit of the Future next year to strengthen their commitment to the timeless values of the Universal Declaration. And on Human Rights Day, I urge people around the world to promote and respect human rights every day for everyone, everywhere.
Well, thank you for staying with us, everyone. My guest on the show is Chibuzo Okereke, a public policy and legislative analyst. Thank you, Chibuzo, for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians.
Yesterday was World Human Rights Day. I'm sure you, like most Nigerians, and of course, other human beings across the world must have also pondered on some of the concerns around human rights. What have your reflections been about, basically?
Well, I think that the United Nations Secretary General put it succinctly. The human rights infrastructure in most of the world have collapsed.
Collapsed?
Absolutely collapsed. And I think, we have rising conflicts, we have humongous inequality, we have hunger, and we have conflict, violence, and fragility of nations and communities has even become more worrisome. I give you an example. In Nigeria, for instance, we've been talking about the congestion of prison for many years. A lot of people are in prison for fines of 4,000, 100,000, 50,000. Gladly, the current Minister of Internal Affairs recently, on a private venture, had to raise almost 500 million naira to settle those fines and decongest, the prisons. Look at the amount of inequality in education. Look at our urban policy infrastructure. There are places in the Federal Capital Territory, for instance, there are new emerging areas where there are no provision for public markets, no provision for public schools. Everything is privatized and commercialized. So how are you going to mitigate inequality in terms of access to education, in terms of access to socio-economic rights? Look at the issue of economic rights of citizens. Look at even the civil space, ability for citizens to organize and give a voice. Look at the NSAS protests in Nigeria and the government commitment, and juxtapose it with how much of those commitments that have been met and whether those demands made have reached anywhere. So, and it's not just Nigeria. Look at the political culture. Look at the political space, because political rights are one of the key fundamental rights, because human beings or the people possess the sovereignty element in a country. And when they will it to someone, the person becomes, their leader. Look at democracy reversals across West Africa. Look at the confidence of citizens in public institutions. We have the National Human Rights Commission in Nigeria, for instance, as a result of the UN resolution that declaration on human rights. We've got that agency or that commission with proper representation and leadership. Go and check their budget. They came into being in 1995. From that time till now, go and look at their budget, including the current proposal. So I think there is something wrong when we don't mainstream human rights. Every other thing we are doing, if you look at the component of the Bill of Rights, whatever you do must reflect it. And that's why I wonder why we go to UN and sign documents, we come back here to domesticate it, then we refuse to operationalize it. And it's not just about, the government. What about the private sector? The economic right, the equality of pay for equal job done, right? And, care for even the elder and for people with disabilities. How are we mainstreaming? How many companies, how many government institutions have framework for women rights protection? Particularly, for instance, if you go to so many organizations, if you put to bed, you have 4 months to or 3 months to come back to work on maternity leave.
You think that's not long enough? That's not long enough?
You cannot come back with your baby. No, it's not about the leave they gave you. Is there a place, a crèche around offices?
Baby-friendly facilities.
Baby-friendly facilities where now the mother and the child is completely separated. And we're having problem because the family system is collapsing because children are being thrown into schools at the 3 months, 4 months, or thereabouts. So we have not decided as a people across Africa and most of the nations of the world, not just in Africa or the global south, on both divides. We have not taken the Bill of Rights and properly mainstream it into what we do. If we do that, we'll reduce conflict and tension by over 90%. Because what is the purpose of aggression, acrimony, agitation? Is because people feel their rights are being impugned or infringed upon, and there is no mechanism for redress. Do you know how many cases that are in police stations today? If you go to the National Assembly, the Public Petition Committee is one of the busiest, right? If you organize a protest in Nigeria today, you will be profiled. First of all, who are the leaders of the protest? Not the cause being fought for.
Or the issues.
Or the issues. Is who are the people leading it, who are they affiliated to? What is the political dimension? And then, national security will be compromised. So there is a big challenge that we're facing.
You mentioned the EndSARS protest a while ago. I mean, it's already 3 years and counting after that protest.
Yeah.
Do you think the issues that protest raised have been addressed one way or another?
How is it addressed now? Have we solved the problem of even the condition of the police itself? You see, police they are Nigerians. So we have 2 cases that the EndSARS has brought forth. Police reform. Has the condition of the police colleges changed? It's a psychology. We believe that when people suffer, then we have trained them. We're not ready. What is the recruitment process for police? Why is it that nobody can say how many police we have in Nigeria, and yet we pay them salary every month, and they are contributing pension? From the IG to the least person, if you ask anybody, they say about. Everybody about. We're talking about human beings who gained employment and working in our system, and we are saying about. Why is it about? Why can't we have a perfect figure that, for it? How do we recruit? How do we promote? How do we fund the police logistics? You can see police people, their vehicles are collapsed. You can see that most of them beg for fuel to use their car. If you call police today, you may likely have to buy fuel before they can go and intervene on anything. It's a serious issue. If you come on the side of the citizens, look at whether police brutality and harassment are stopped. You are seeing videos online every day. Police will come out to say, we have seen that, we will address it. We've seen in Lagos, in Delta, in many places, police brutality have not stopped. How police conduct arrests has not stopped. Whether they charge people, have people in custody for weeks and days. And then, so these are the issues. And until we address those issues that were raised and new ones that are emerging, we will not make progress. How do you police a community where there is a huge gulf of divide between citizens and the authority? The average, the Afrobarometer survey, I think 2023 or so, has two major institutions in Nigeria with the highest corruption perception index. And police is number one. Perception, right? It may not mean that they are corrupt as people, but
that's how they are perceived.
Good. How many citizens can gladly call police to give intelligence on anything? Look at the amount of insecurity we have in the country. And these are internal insecurity challenges that the police should be responsible for. But it has to start from the police colleges. If policemen are the ones buying uniforms for themselves, something is wrong. If our police textile company, I think in Kaduna or somewhere, that's supposed to produce the uniform has been commercialized and privatized, they are no longer producing. We will now have commercial sellers of police camouflage. Why wouldn't armed robbers be able to have access to it? This is the issue. Everybody, my challenge is that everybody knows it. Everybody knows that the police pension has problem. Even the police itself, they've been fighting with the Police Service Commission. The Supreme Court also had to settle their case the other day. So we have to really start thinking about Nigeria in running our institutions and not about those who are there for the moment or what they will benefit from their service at the time. It's how much of what we can put into the system and deliver for the people. You see, the police has to partner with the communities. We are having this level of insecurity and we are still arguing whether we need state police, whether the governors will use them against the people, or whether we need community policing. No, sir. No. Which other federal system of the world is operating a centralized police command system? It's not about governor. Governor, at least today in Nigeria, since our constitution has not totally collapsed, knows he or she will serve for 8 years. For how long will a particular governor, for instance, use the state police against political opponents? Is that all we think about? We should also look at the future. What is the future of doing this? Because we will not only remain like this as a country. So we'll start creating institutions and systems that can help protect our future, rather than on parochial reason as to who we. Why must it be so? So if you say governors will do this, that means also at the national level something is also wrong there.
Let's talk about factors around poverty, for example, the quality of education that we have. How do these factors adversely impact human rights?
Oh, it's a major player. It's an enabler of whether you're able to enjoy your, because there are procedural rights, there are substantive rights, right? For you to enjoy your substantive rights provided under the law, you must understand the procedure. You must even be aware that those rights exist. And these are the mechanism or the processes or procedure to enjoy those rights. And education plays key role. For somebody, if you are, as an educated person, you have more opportunity to get a better economic means in a more legitimate way than somebody that is not educated. And if the person, you have more people that are not educated and they perceive that the system is responsible for this inequality, they will be angry at the system. And that could lead to conflict and violence. Now look at poverty and hunger. Anybody that is poor and hungry is already deprived. Because one of the key rights, is for you to enjoy economic opportunities in the country, have access to jobs. How many Nigerian graduates, are you not seeing how our young people are celebrating when they leave the shores of the country? Hope is the greatest element to sustain a nation. When a country's hope you understand, is punctured, then there is a big problem. When people don't have hope, when people are in school and they are just waiting to travel out, when people are doing a job and they're just saving money to travel out, when people are in a country where they cannot find a fabric, an element, something that inspires hope for them to believe that they can succeed in this country, then you don't have a country. Because a country itself, in terms of statehood, is made up of people, boundaries, government. And the people is the greatest element or character of a state. If the people are in a state of state exit, which means they have detached themselves from government, then there is something wrong. And that is what we are facing. And that is why this government, for instance, has to look at every aspect of the Nigerian society, look at how we can have human rights framework in institutions of government, in workplaces, and everywhere. Every Nigerian, whether it's police, the army, and other, must follow the rules of engagement.
There's this factor that's very prevalent within Nigerian universities, sex for grade. I've spoken with lawyers a lot about this since 2016 in particular, and it has become a scourge. They talk about how that this is one very key area in which human rights of the students, in this case the female students, their rights are being trampled upon by these lecturers. From what we have seen so far, the case of University of Calabar being one of the most recent now, are university authorities, from your assessment, doing enough about this problem?
Well, let me start by telling you this. What is the foundational enabler for sex for grades? It is the collapse of our value system. Where are you going with the grade you got through sex? It's a question. Why do you think grade, academic grade, is so important and valuable that you need to offer your body, or your body is demanded for to get it?
But other cases where they are, if you like, blackmailed and compelled to say, if you don't compromise, I mean, sex-wise, and you don't get...
No, that's what I'm saying. The question is, where will that grade take you to? It is the value we place on certificate rather than skills and knowledge that is fueling it. And it's a collapse of educational system. The philosophy of education has collapsed in Nigeria because everything is grade and certificate. I was a student union president myself in school. I know I dealt with these cases. At a time, somebody even called me the devil, you know, for standing for the rights of a student across all the schools I've been with. So the issue is not even about addressing because we have a law, sexual harassment law, that they said had some problems and the president has not, you know, signed it. Even after you sign it, we have signed disability empowerment, the VAP law. Are we operationalizing it? Every day they are on television begging us to, begging political elite to appoint them. They are not appointing them, no penalty. It's not about having a legal framework for symbolism's sake. We are talking about nation building. If you go to schools, why is it so important? If the grades are not valuable, it will not become a tradable commodity to the level of using sex for it. And it's happening even in secondary school. What about having organized malpractice, where students are forced to pay money so that a lecturer or a teacher will come during WAEC or whatever, and or JAMB, and begin to give them the answers? These are abuse of rights. Because while you're doing it in Center A, Center B that doesn't have the same arrangement, it's already abuse of rights, unfairness, and inequality. And these two people will come into the market. One has obtained certificate through fraudulent means, and he will continue to function that way, undermining our system. While the ones that got it through legitimate means are wondering what kind of a country is this. That is the collapse of a country, where people know that this is the right thing to do, and that those who didn't do it the right way are even enjoying themselves. And those who are legitimate, students and who obtain their grades rightly don't have the opportunity of who built that kind of a country, and you want the society to grow. So if you go to schools, it's a peculiar situation. Because school is entirely a different nation. They have a senate, they have their own government, they have their own people, population, they have everything. So to address it, we must link I've always said this, what is the reason for establishing institutions? It is not for institution's sake. It is for development of human capital, the manpower to power the economy. If in your schools, people use sense to get their grade, where will the manpower to power the economy come from? And then we complain about what is going on in the country. So we need to redefine the value system and do our value chain analysis properly and able to link our input to processing, to output, to impact. So we should be able to make sure that schools are producing something that is supporting the economy, producing something that is supporting, all the sectors of our national life. If that doesn't happen, if people conduct research in schools, whether lecturers or students, and then it ends up in shelves or being used to decorate some library that is not working, knowledge is for something. It's not just for satisfaction of curiosity. It is for utility and productivity. But that is not happening in Nigeria. How many governments have you seen giving any university any task? I don't. Nobody, whether government in the past at state, local government, have you seen any state university, federal university, have you seen any of them giving any university any task to say, in the next 2 years, we want to change this system. Can you research and work on something? This fund is available for it. We have fund in TED fund to fund research and development and other. Have we been able to track how many of those research and development that we have used to power our own economy? We have not. We are not doing it. And these are the issues we have about how rights are mainstream, how our institutions work. A dysfunctional system cannot produce a thriving human rights society.
Anti-corruption agencies, in particular the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, have been accused time and again of trampling on the rights of citizens, whether they're in government or maybe regular everyday Nigerians. That has become a very huge talking point. We've seen how they also carry themselves when they, an attempt to address this Yahoo phenomenon. What should be the standard operating procedure for a frontline agency like the EFCC that is supposed to fight corruption?
Well, I tell you this because also when we create institutions, we don't we give self-regulatory power and less oversight. Who is conducting oversight on EFCC? But I'm happy the new chairman said something, I think during the walk, the anti-corruption day walk yesterday or so. He has warned about people seeing people with laptop or good phones and just profile them. Legitimate. This is the tech age. We've got Yahoo boys, right? They know how to track them and get them. But we've got young people whose life and everything is tech. The office is their phone and their laptop. You can't continue to profile them and then they start saving money to leave the country. And then we complain that the tech ecosystem is not growing. And they are not, many of them are in Nigeria and they are earning abroad. So maybe, and that is another thing, it takes, leadership is everything. So, but we want to go beyond the character of the individual that is chairman at the time. It's supposed to be institutional culture, that this is how we operate. Whether it is a political case, a crime, financial crime case, by a Yahoo boy or a politician or anybody, this is the culture of operation. And we operate that way. We don't seek to impress anybody. We don't dramatize. It's not a theatrics. Is you are focused, you've got a law that created you, that empowered you, that gave you, you have your standard operating procedure, irrespective of, and that is what our institutions should be doing. And sincerely speaking, without any form of, trying to favor the current chairman, his language, his words, including where he was being screened in the Senate. It didn't sound, I didn't hear political correctness. He was sounding as somebody who understands the system, the responsibility he has, and the role to play. However, his men, right? The people work, he's not, the chairman cannot do everything. He's not the one in charge of zonal offices across the country. But what is supposed to be is that EFCC operations must observe human rights principle, except where, of course, you know that human rights too, very important, very critical, but it is not absolute. When you have crossed the borderline, against the law, certain rights that you have will be suspended, and that is why you get arrested and keep in custody. But then another right is activated, fair hearing. You must be taken to court. So, but the way and manner they operate, they must never operate in a criminal gangster manner. They have to operate, diligently and professionally, so that people will know that this is better. When politics is involved, part of the reason you see EFCC operations the way they are is because of when politicians are involved, from my own observation. Because politicians themselves are also fortified. They don't want anything to tarnish their political image, so they build a wall of protection around themselves and sometimes make it difficult for EFCC to assess them. But in terms of barging into hotels and carry young boys and begin to non-check who is Yahoo, a boy or not, and when you find out that, oh, these ones are not, you send them, it's not professional. Or the incident we saw, I don't know whether it's EFCC or ICPC that stormed the school or something. And there's also a troubling statistics. I don't know the institution that put it forward, that about 80% or so of our young people in schools are all doing Yahoo. And for me, I think it's a huge potential. It's negative at the time, but it can be converted. Shockingly, most of those people did not go to school, but they have mastered the computer system and they're using it to do a lot. And if we believe that crime, is high, financial crime and other, any one of them that we were able to arrest, we need to look at the ones that will be charged and dealt with, and we have to introduce utilization of their skills as part of maybe something we need. Because you see, that is why you have covert operation. There are people working in CIA, in FBI, that their parents and even their friends don't know where they work. But in Nigeria, everybody, nothing is classified in Nigeria, to the best of my knowledge.
I want to talk to you about something else. As of today, for this year, the UN is saying the theme for observance is freedom, equality, and justice for all. It's been 24 years now since Nigeria returned to democracy. Yeah. Some people say, for whatever it's worth, let's be grateful. I mean, come on, you can't compare human rights today, I mean, in terms of ranking of our country, to what you had in the days of the military. Are we not making progress, even though you may say it's slow?
Well, it's not, if you compare the military ranks, it's not a good comparison to make, because the two governments have different character. One is built on the power of the guns. The other one is built on the power of the people. So the comparison has to be one democracy to another. And this is what people use to deceive us. I believe, there are different schools of thought that say, oh, okay, we have seen the worst of our times, we've seen the colonial era, we've seen our independence era, we have seen the cultural divide, tribalism, and all that. We have seen civil war. We have seen military takeover, and that didn't give people opportunity to express themselves. And then we have transited to democracy that we should be grateful. We even had a Truth and Reconciliation panel set up by President Obasanjo at the time. And we have had political conferences. You know, in 2005, we've had the National Sovereign Something Conference in 2014, and that brought people together to
the National Confab.
National Confab. Now, the two government or systems don't have the same character. This is anchored on people. You cannot deliberately transit from a military era and you were shouting that democracy is what will take us to El Dorado. We arrived at democracy, you now activated the character of the military in managing your democracy. It's not done that way. And that is the problem that is being faced in Nigeria today. These two concepts is the life of any society. The people with freedom of, because no constitution creates human being. God is the one that creates human being. And that is why that freedom God put in man is what the Constitution of Nations have recognized and say freedom is key. And that freedom is your ability to express yourself, your ability to enjoy socio-economic opportunities in your country or anywhere else, your ability, your right to peaceful assembly, or your right to fair hearing and what have you. Now, you've got justice, very key. In a system where you have people, one or two people, there will be likelihood of conflict, infringement of rights, or what have you. Do we have justice? Justice is very important for people to remain hopeful. There is political justice. There is economic justice. There is justice in everything, including the vote, the voting system. Our elections, how is it conducted? What is the character of the political parties? Somebody said very rightly that we have democracy without Democrats. Because human beings are everything. Without Democrats, you cannot operate a democracy. Democracy presents, first of all, popular participation, that more people are in the system. And that is what leads to social justice. Democracy presents legitimacy, right? That more people have said, oh, this person should lead us and manage our resources. What is the penalty for those who mismanage our resources for 24 years? There are people who have been in power for 24 years in Nigeria. There's no penalty. At most, you have some of them, being clapped down by EFCC or what have you. But, you see, the people don't believe they can go to the ballot and change somebody that is not doing well, and then recruit somebody they believe that will do well. If that one fails them, they go back to the ballot and change. What we are doing here is that when we elect somebody, they will become an ethnic coloration. Everybody will be asked to wait, that it is our turn. And then if the person manages to do 8 years, we will now start praying for somebody that will do well to come. No democracy works that way. Democracy that is embellished in tribalism cannot thrive. It has to be embellished in competence, character, and capacity, and vision, so that the nation can make progress, for it. So, for me, yes, this presents an opportunity for us to make progress as a country, because it's a work in progress. We'll keep working on it, but we must have the character of the people that are actually looking forward. The UN Secretary talked about a future summit. This is what we should be discussing in Nigeria. What is the future of this country owing to our experiences of today? We did the Electoral Act. Everybody praised it. We went to the field. People undermined it. That's the problem.
I need to talk about that for a minute. Right. I mean, what's the, if you like, the crack between the Electoral Act 2022 itself, which, I mean, even your colleagues within the civil space did hail as a step in the right direction, and the ability to translate it during elections?
That is the weakness of the institutions.
Including INEC?
Of course. Oh, my goodness. Who is talking about? You see, people who say INEC, this, I've listened to INEC. INEC says, oh, political parties are our problem. I've listened to the judiciary, who said, oh, political parties are our problem. If they do what they are supposed to do, we won't have over 2,000 litigation. Let me tell you this. INEC today, they use Road Transport Association people,
National Union of Road Transport Workers,
to move logistics.
Right.
They recruit ad hoc staff everywhere. They do all these things by themselves, without anybody. That is not how it's done. If a copper, because this is Nigeria, for Christ's sake, if a certain core members are deployed to the polling unit, because the standard is compromised in the field, core members are deployed, and the people who show up there are not the people that were recruited. Because nobody is doing quality control, checking the system. The national chairman, will he be in Abuja, where he's in a situation room with a camera or some technology, to know that the human beings whom have been recruited to do election are not the ones who showed up with a copper uniform, deliberately to undermine the process? Or the person who's supposed to charge the beavers was even the one looking for politicians to say, I'm in charge of charging beavers. So, you know, because we are not discussing the real field experience issue. Or the INEC crack tech, who is promising people that he has capacity to change the accreditation in the system before transmitting it. So the human beings are the issue. INEC, when people say, oh, INEC need to be unbundled and then some things taken away from them, I don't even see the thing they are doing that you want to take away some. Oh, they can process. Don't INEC have a legal department? They can expand it and give them marching order to prosecute all cases reported by police or anybody involving an electoral crime or fraud. I mean, if the commission is good, but it's not as if we cannot start now to do something. And by my experience, it's not as if we create commission today, oh, we are now in heaven. We will now start prosecuting this thing.
Electoral offenders.
Electoral offenders. Don't we have human rights commission since 1995? Are they been empowered? Are they not supposed to probably be the one to get a budget to make sure that those who are owing fine in prisons are released instead of them being there and we are feeding them more than they are owing us? We say we are feeding them 800 and some of them have spent 5 years there. So what I'm telling you is that INEC is not professional. And it's the same thing that is affecting every other institution is affecting them. There's a lot of politics within the system. We're not ready. You saw what happened in Kenya. Some commissioners accused the chairman during the last presidential election in Kenya.
That produced Ruto.
Yes. That, you know, his approach and process is opaque. And they don't understand. The chairman is not carrying them. And openly, do you have national commissioners in Nigeria who can say anything? No. They tell you will rock the boat. As I speak to you today, the problem that happened during the election, don't forget about who won the election, who didn't win. We're talking about nation building and our systems. Is it not proper for either 9th Assembly of National Assembly or 10th to have a commission in terms of operational failure? We're no longer talking about, oh, did INEC declare the right? Somebody has won the election. The person is our president today. But it does not stop an inquiry into operational failure and the human beings who may have orchestrated it so that we can avert it in the future. That is how, you saw what happened in America just 2 days ago. The Pennsylvania University president and the chairman of board, just because of a statement she made, the Congress invited her to understand her anti-Semitism statement and what have you, and her view on the issue, and that led to her resignation. For Christ's sake, institutions must take responsibility. When in the last administration, each time they go on retreat, they praise themselves having performed. I don't listen to citizens. INEC will do evaluation. Nobody will see the report. You see, if an organization or institution carries out post-mortem analysis, you are free to come out to say A, B, C, D area had issues. We are going to fix it. That is how you build trust. Don't think if you say that it means, oh, the people that won the election are no longer the one. No. Because the Constitution and the law gave you power to run this process and declare people you have done so. People have also gone to court, and the court has affirmed and dismissed some petitions, and the government is on at all levels. But it does not stop us to rework wherever we got it wrong in the system to make sure that we are following the mandate of the law.
There are two more issues I just want to bring, for us to talk about quickly. If you go to the Niger Delta now, you see that oil spillage and all of the exploration happening in that region of the country has done a lot of damage to not just the water. Of course, that's a no-go area for the most part, but the economic life of the people. You go up north, for instance. I mean, we are in Abuja now, but when you go further up north, you see what culture, what tradition is doing to access to education and so on and so forth. Of course, it just replicates across regions and states in this country. Talk to me about how much that also erodes human rights.
Well, absolutely. You see, and that's why I tell you, it's not about us creating new commissions or what have you. If you look at the Niger Delta, even the president at the time did not sign the NDDC bill. The National Assembly at that time had to override the president's veto for this NDDC to come to be. Today, they get 13%, they get money from the IOCs, they have state governments in those places. We even have the Ministry of the Niger Delta. Ask me, why is it a problem for the NDDC to develop the Niger Delta? This is the issue. Abuse of economic rights of citizens. Mismanagement of resources without a penalty. In the last assembly, the National Assembly conducted a probe on from 2000 to 2020, I think, abandoned projects in the Niger Delta region. And we saw lists, many projects awarded, not abandoned. People just go there, pour sand on the road, and they disappear. Maybe they invite community people. You know, in Nigeria, that's why I don't like anything called groundbreaking ceremony. I think that the ground we should break is when we have completed the project. For every time we gather and bring people to dance, cultural troop display, people will speak, will say we are groundbreaking so thing. In most of the states and the institutions, that thing we elaborately celebrated, including the Ogoni cleanup that a vice president of Nigeria even went to flag off, did not happen. And he spent 8 years in office. So that our cultural, disposition towards governance is not good enough, and we need to change it. These institutions must be made to work, and leadership is critical. You mentioned about the economic and environmental rights of the people of the Niger Delta that has collapsed. It's a multi-stakeholder issue. If you go there, some citizens from there and community leaders are part of the problem. Governments are part of the problem. The IOCs are part of it. The people managing the Niger Delta too, the same thing. So this issue, if you go to the north, we will now have the Amajiri Commission or what have you, that is not functioning properly. How much is voted into it? Starting with this, our education loan, how is it going to be administered? If we don't administer it well, the people that need the opportunity will not have it. Oil is supposed to be a blessing to us, but the resource cost theory has become more prevalent in Nigeria, where the oil seems to have become a cost, just because we refuse to do what we are supposed to do and professionally manage it. See, leadership is about compassion. Without having compassion, you will not know that the rivers, the farmland of these people are destroyed. And therefore, the exploration that is going on, they need alternative to their source of livelihood so that they can do well as a people and thrive.
On the final notes, the judiciary today is being bashed left, right, center, top to bottom, end to end, over election cases and several other issues maybe that border on economic corruption and so on and so forth. I mean, in light of all of this, is it still logical to say, well, we can always go back to the judiciary to seek redress where citizens' rights have been trampled upon?
Well, under a democracy, we have no choice.
Okay, it's a matter of not having a choice.
We don't have a choice, but you see, I'm one of those people calling for judicial reform. I was in court some days ago. What is happening in the court, the system they operate is not what we have in other arms. And something is wrong. If you go to the legislature, you have a press corps that is there, and they record what happened in the National Assembly, and they use it as news without anybody controlling what should be the news. You know, if you go to the executive arm of government, the same thing. You've got a press corps. In fact, the arrangement there is mandatory for the executive, certain members of the executive to brief the press corps at even a visit to the president.
Right.
If you go to the judiciary, it's entirely a different thing altogether, and it needs to change. What happened in Kano couldn't have happened if there was a press corps that recorded, because right now, where is the recording of the judgment delivered inside court? Nobody has it. They say the justices are using longhand, so as people are talking, they are writing and what have you and all that. I mean, the media need to be on the judiciary. They need to have a very major press corps that is active and functional. Even if you don't want justices' faces to show, that code of conduct can come in. But the things going on inside the court every day need to be recorded. The news need to be out. It's not what we see, you know, because they are human beings. They are also infallible, you know. So, and it's important. And for me, recently we've been seeing court judgment and all that concerning people asking for review of judgments that were given in the electoral matters or what have you. And mind you, I also heard that to get a civil matter listed in Supreme Court or Appeal Court, it may reach 2024 right now, because all the electoral cases have taken over and we don't even have enough justices. It's just recently that NJC released list of 11 to make up the Supreme Court. So now we need to reform the judiciary. The judiciary, it cannot continue to have the activities shrouded in secrecy or in certain arrangement that does not allow what they are doing to be out there. The people need to believe that they can get justice in the court. If you shut the doors of the court, access to the court by citizens, then you have shut the destiny of our democracy. Because people will take to the streets. Anytime people have cases in court, they always wait for the judiciary to make pronouncement. If they now discover they can no longer access the court, or the court is compromised, or whatever it is, whether it is a perception or a reality, the democracy will be in a serious jeopardy. So for me, we need judicial reform that can put them out there. What they are doing should be out there. It's already happening in other countries. In Kenya, here, in Ghana. Why is our case different?
I'm afraid this is the much we'll be able to discuss on this very topical issue. Thank you so very much. Chibuzo Okereke, public policy and legislative analyst, for these very valuable insights you've shared with us today.
Thank you. Good morning.
And that's Global Morning for you this Monday. I'm Muya Mofwegwe on behalf of the entire team here, responsible for both the hosting and production. We say have a great day ahead of you.